there are a few lessons of both leadership and about God's character in that interaction. And what you're saying is right in that we all have some kind of responsibility to lead when other people aren't. Like if everyone around you is going the wrong direction, we have a responsibility to go the way we're supposed to go, because there are people among that crowd who are just afraid to speak up.
Yeah.
So if somebody doesn't do it, nobody will.
Yeah.
And obviously, in this case, there are 4 people saying the right thing: Moses, Aaron, Joshua, and Caleb. And it wasn't enough. They needed people from the masses to go with them. And Moses' example of leadership is completely the opposite of what the world expects. The people threatened his position. They threatened to stone him. And then they said, we're going to pick a different leader and go back to Egypt. And Moses doesn't respond by asserting his authority and making people obey him. He doesn't call down fire from heaven. Although there's a time for that kind of thing, and sometimes he doesn't. Like the case with Korah's rebellion.
Mm-hmm.
But in this case, he falls down on his face. He humbles himself before the people and before God, but first before the people. And he's essentially begging them, don't rebel against God like this, because this is not going to go well. And so when God responds, like, stand back, Moses, I'm going to wipe these people out and start over with you, Moses doesn't say, yeah, that's a good idea, even though maybe it would seem like a good idea because of all these ungrateful wretches. He pleads on their behalf and says, God, spare them. He does it for 2 reasons. One, because God appointed him to lead these people. And if he allows God to wipe them out, then he is a complete failure in every possible way. So if God starts over with him, what kind of foundation is that for a nation when he has completely failed in his commission? And 2, for God's character, for God's reputation, because God made a promise to the patriarchs. He made a promise to Jacob that he would bring his sons and their descendants back to the land safely, and that they would inherit the land. And Moses is the son of Jacob. So maybe God could have fulfilled that promise just through Moses, but he also made a covenant with Aaron and said, Aaron, you and your sons are going to be my priests forever. So if God wiped out Aaron or Aaron's sons, then he would be a promise breaker. And what kind of God would that? So not only do we have Moses, who isn't worth following, we've got a God who's not worth worshiping because he doesn't even keep faith with his own covenants.
Yeah, and that's the foundation of the God that we serve, is that he's a God who keeps his promises.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, he's not worthy to be worshipped. He's not worthy to be a God. And that part I can see clearly, like his reputation, like not killing them for his reputation.
Yeah, and
but he doesn't say he's never going to kill them. He's like, they'll die before they go into the land, but their kids will, because that's part of the promise. They are Israel.
I think the reason that God said this to Moses was not because he was prepared to break his promise, but because he was testing Moses. He was trying to show us and Moses who Moses was, and said, this is why I picked this guy. Not because he's a great leader, not because he gives great speeches, but because he's the humblest man on earth.
Yeah.
Is what
as he wrote himself.
Yeah. But, part of being humble is telling the truth, even about yourself.
It's just ironic. From a modern perspective, it's kind of ironic.
This also reminds me of David. There were 2 rebellions under King David. One was his own son, Absalom.
That's right.
And David's immediate response was not to go kill his own son and put down this rebellion. That's not what he did. Instead, he fled Jerusalem, and some guy on the riverside starts throwing rocks at him. And his men are going to go, let's go kill this guy. And David's like, no, I probably deserve it. Let him be. And later, he comes back, and he reasserts his authority, not for himself, not because his authority or position was threatened, but because God put him in charge of the nation, and he had a job to do.
Yeah.
And so he goes back, and he puts down the rebellion, and puts the kingdom back in order. And then another rebellion, a guy from the tribe of Benjamin named Sheba, he decided he didn't want to be part of Israel anymore. The tribe of Benjamin is a little bitty tribe right in the middle, sandwiched between Ephraim and Judah, decides they're going to be their own little country, which is just stupid. That never works out. But But David's position isn't threatened here.
Right.
I mean, David's capital city is right on the border of Benjamin and Judah. So, I mean, this is an eventual threat, possibly. But at the moment, Sheba wasn't saying David can't be king, saying we just don't want to be part of it. But David had to put this down for the sake of the kingdom. The kingdom itself was being threatened by this territory right in the heart of Israel becoming a separate people.
Yeah.
They can't have that. And so
David
didn't involve himself. He stayed in Jerusalem and sent Joab to go put down the rebellion. And eventually the people of Benjamin finished it for him. He cornered Sheba in a city, and the people of that city killed him and threw his head up over the wall. Said, we don't want any part of this guy.